Before we start the show, don't forget to check our new ebook, Kill All Bugs, Learn Software Testing in One Day. For a limited time, it's only $9.99. Links in description.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show that really tries to cut through the noise and get you those essential nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're diving into a tool that, well, it's often seen as just a workhorse, but it's actually, I think, a real strategic powerhouse. Bugzilla. If you're involved in software development, you know how projects can just, spiral if bugs aren't handled well. Think of Bugzilla not just as, like, a dumping ground for problems, but more like the central nervous system for your project health. Our mission today. To really uncover those deeper insights into how this open source system can genuinely transform your development process.
Yeah, and transformation is really the word. A lot of teams see bug cracking as just a chore, something they have to do. But a solid system like Bugzilla, when you use it strategically, it becomes, well, indispensable. It's not just about listing defects. It's about building this transparent, accountable, and really efficient workflow that, frankly, prevents chaos. Our deep dive today, it's based on a pretty comprehensive tutorial that really gets into Bugzilla's features, helping us pull out the why behind it all.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit differently then. What is Bugzilla, really? Beyond just being an open source tracker, okay, it's built on Perl, uses MySQL, that hints at its flexibility, right? It's scalability. But more than that, it really acts as this critical control center for quality. It's not just for, finding and noting down defects. Our sources really stress its dual role. Yeah. It can be a full-on test management tool, too. And that versatility, that's where a lot of its real power comes from, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating there is how that flexibility leads to this unified data ecosystem. It's built to integrate pretty smoothly with other big test case management systems, the commercial ones like Quality Center, but also open source options like TestLink. And this isn't just about sharing data points. It's about making sure your test cases, your results, the bugs you find, they're all part of one connected story. That kind of interoperability, it just streamlines the whole data chain. It allows for much better communication, not just internally between dev and QA, but also, and this is crucial, with clients or stakeholders who really need that transparency.
Right. So it's really about creating that single source of truth across the whole development cycle. And speaking of power, Bugzilla's got a ton of features. But instead of just listing them, let's think about the actual pain points they solve, like advanced search. Okay, that's not just a nice extra. It's how you quickly find the critical issues buried in a sea of minor ones. Email notifications. Well, they ensure timely decisions, right? Not just keeping people vaguely in the loop. And being able to modify or even file bugs by email. That means your team can flag issues from anywhere, basically. They don't need to be glued to the web interface. Time tracking, that becomes vital input for proper resource allocation, project forecasting. Strong security, obviously important, protects your IP, your sensitive project info. Customization is huge. It means Bugzilla adapts to your team's way of working, not the other way around. And localization, well, that's key for global teams, breaking down language barriers. This is where it starts to get really interesting, I think, how these features actually manage the journey of a bug itself. Okay, so let's trace that life cycle. From when someone first spots a bug to when it's hopefully resolved within Bugzilla. Let's skip the click-by-click stuff and talk more about the philosophy behind a good bug report. When you're creating a new bug, Bugzilla gives you the structured form, right? To capture all the key info. What fields are just non-negotiable? Yeah. And maybe more importantly, why?
Look, getting that information right at the start, it's massive. You just can't overstate how much time and, frankly, headache it prevents later on. Those mandatory fields in Bugzilla, usually summary and description, they're not just boxes to tick. They enforce a minimum standard for usable data. A clear summary gives everyone an immediate idea, like a mental hook. And a detailed description, steps to reproduce what you expected versus what actually happened, that's the foundation for quick diagnosis, for getting it to the right person. When those are done well, it just cuts down massively on the back and forth. Developers aren't wasting time trying to guess what someone meant. And fields like product to component, version, severity, they're not just labels. They're the first strategic sorting mechanism for triage. They tell you immediately where the problem is, how bad it is, and probably which team needs to look at it. Without that structured reporting, even a simple bug can just turn into this black hole of uncertainty.
Right. And once you submit it, Bugzilla gives it that unique ID, like the example ID stack 26320. That's its tracking number for its whole life. But the initial report, that's just the beginning, isn't it? You can add more context, a URL maybe, keywords so it's easier to find later, a whiteboard for quick notes, tags for flexible grouping. But maybe two of the most powerful fields are depends on and blocks. Why are they so critical? They seem like just another data point, but they're more...
Oh, it depends on, and blocks are absolute game changers for project managers.
Yeah.
They map out the interdependencies between issues. I actually saw a critical release get held up for weeks once because this seemingly minor UI bug, which happened to block testing for a core feature, wasn't properly linked. Nobody realized. Without using those fields, you're essentially flying blind when it comes to managing timelines. They light up the critical path. They show you how one bug fix might rely on another one getting done first, or how one bug might be stopping other work entirely. It gives you this clear, real-time picture of potential bottlenecks and helps teams plan their work much more strategically. And adding a deadline date, well, that just amplifies it. It turns a bug report into an actual accountable task with clear expectations. It's all about, proactive risk management, not just constantly putting out fires.
Okay, so we've carefully logged this bug, got all the crucial details in there. Great. But if you're a project manager, a list of 1,000 perfectly logged bugs is still, well, just a list. The real power comes in seeing the forest for the trees, right? How do we get that essential big picture view? Understand the project's overall health quickly. And that's exactly where Bugzilla's graphical reports really shine.
Yeah, this is where the data turns into actual insight. Graphical reports let teams step back from individual bugs and start seeing patterns.
Yeah.
Systemic issues. Think about it.
Yeah.
A spreadsheet with 500 bugs might give you totals, sure. But a bar chart, it instantly shows you if, say, one component is just bleeding critical issues, or maybe it reveals that your team is constantly getting stuck on high-severity blockers. You basically define a set of bugs using the search function, and then you plot different aspects, maybe severity on the x-axis, component on the y-axis. And the really cool part is the 3D reports, using that multiple pages option. That lets you slice the data in even more complex ways, maybe by signee or by sprint. It can reveal correlations you'd never spot otherwise.
It's like having an MRI for your project.
Yeah.
And our sources gave some good examples. Like, you could quickly spot bad bugs. The source mentioned a bar chart showing severity in widget gears, maybe 88 severe blockers versus 667 normal ones. That immediately flags widget gears as a potential problem area, right? Maybe an architectural issue, not just one bad commit. Or picture line graph tracking percent complete V's deadline. That gives you a real-time pulse check. Are you hitting targets? Or is the project slowly drifting off course? These aren't just pretty charts. They're immediate visual calls to action for strategic decisions.
Exactly. These visuals deliver quick, vital info. They let project managers rapidly prioritize, allocate resources where they're actually needed. Instead of sitting through hours of status meetings trying to piece together the big picture from individual updates, you get this immediate, undeniable sense of where the project stands, what needs urgent focus, and importantly, where your team's efforts are actually making a difference. It's about moving from just raw data to actionable intelligence almost instantly.
Okay, but with potentially hundreds, maybe thousands of these issues logged, how do you find the one you need? Or maybe just a specific group of them? Bugzilla's search and browse features are obviously designed for that. The browse function, it's not just a list, is it? It's more like a structured way to drill down quickly into a specific part of the project. You might pick a product, say Sam's widget, then a component like widget gears, and boom, you see all the bugs linked to that specific area. It really helps organize what could otherwise be just an overwhelming flood of information.
And crucially, when you're looking at a specific bug's details that you found through browsing, it's not just a static page. You can immediately change the assignee, update the QA contact, tweak the CC list, make sure the right people are seeing it. It really shows how browsing is tied directly into the active management of these defects.
That's really useful, yeah. Very interactive. So beyond browsing, Bugzilla has two main search types, simple search and advanced search. Simple search is kind of your everyday tool, right? For quick checks, maybe you just want to see all open bugs assigned to me or all the closed bugs in this particular component. It's about getting fast answers without needing a complex query. And once you run that search, Bugzilla gives you options at the bottom, view results differently, maybe export to XML, or even do bulk changes like reassigning a bunch of bugs at once.
And what's really neat here is how users can customize that search result screen, tailor it to their specific role or how they work. By adding or removing columns like a developer might want to see % complete and last modified, while the QA lead might prioritize steps to reproduce, you make sure the info displayed is immediately useful to you. That customization really speeds things up when you're sorting through lots of reports.
And then, for those times you need, like forensic precision, that's where advanced search comes in. This is where you can get super granular. You can set really specific criteria, maybe find all confirmed high-severity UI bugs from the last sprint assigned to your team, where the summary contains widget gears twisted, and it's in the SAM's widget product, really specific stuff. It's all about cutting through all the noise to find exactly the needle you're looking for in the haystack.
Precisely. Advanced search gives users the power to do, precision diagnostics within what could be a massive database. For really complex projects, maybe multi-team efforts with thousands of bugs flying around, that kind of precision is absolutely essential. It's how you spot subtle trends, maybe prepare for an audit, or understand the exact impact of recent code changes. It lets you go way beyond general overviews into really deep, actionable insights.
And Bugzilla isn't this rigid, one-size-fits-all thing, which is, I think, a major plus. It's designed to be personalized, and that's where the preferences section really comes into play. Looks like there are 5 main areas you can adjust: general, email, saved searches, account information, and permissions. So, under general preferences, you can change the look and feel, like switching the skin from dusk to classic for a white background. Seems minor, but for some people, that makes a big difference in readability. Or you can tweak little things like where the comment box appears, or automatically CCing yourself on bugs you touch, little workflow enhancers. Then there's email preferences. This is all about controlling the flood, right? Deciding how and from who you get notified. It's not just about getting emailed, it's about setting up a smart notification strategy, one that stops you from getting overwhelmed by alerts, but still ensures you don't miss the critical stuff.
Yeah, and this raises a really important question. How do you actually strike that balance? It's tricky. Too many notifications and they just become white noise. You ignore them. Too few, and you missed something vital. Using those email preferences thoughtfully means you can keep your focus on the high priority items. It makes your daily interaction with Bugzilla way more productive because you're getting relevant updates, not just everything.
Absolutely. Intelligent filtering, essentially. And then saved searches. This is great. It lets you save those really complex, specific search queries you might use all the time, the ones you spent ages crafting. Then you can just run them straight from your preferences. Huge time saver. And it's not just for you, right? Think about bringing new team members up to speed or standardizing common reports. Shared saved searches can become like a team knowledge base, and you can specifically choose who you share them with or keep them private.
And let's not forget account information and permissions. Account info is simple enough, your name, password updates, that sort of thing. But permissions, that's absolutely foundational. It's Bugzilla's built-in role-based access control. Super important for keeping data accurate and stopping unauthorized changes. This is where you define exactly who can do what, who creates bugs, who can edit them, who gets to close them, who can see potentially sensitive project details. Strong permissions make sure that structured environment we talked about stays reliable and secure. It prevents mistakes, or worse, malicious changes, and ensures only the right people see the right things. It's really about protecting that single source of truth for your project.
And there we have it. We've really journeyed through Bugzilla today, looking past just the features to see its strategic value, almost like a project intelligence tool. From its core role as like a command center for quality, through that critical bug lifecycle, the power of visual reports, precision searching, and deep personalization. This deep dive hopefully was your shortcut to being really well informed on how to leverage this, pretty indispensable tool in software development.
And just as we wrap up, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Bugzilla, like any powerful system, it isn't just software. It's kind of an organizational mirror. How a team adopts it, how carefully they report bugs, how well they use those dependency links, how they customize it. All of that reflects, and ultimately it shapes the team's culture around quality, transparency, accountability. So this raises an important question, I think. How does bringing in or maybe improving a system like Bugzilla not just track problems, but how does it fundamentally change the actual dynamics of the projects you work on, and maybe even the culture of quality in the teams you're part of?
Hey, yo! Haven't you checked out our new book yet? Link in description.